Hi, I'm Lynda Hafner. I am a top producing realtor at ERA Key Realty in Central Massachusetts. Today we are going to talk about the closing process when you're buying a home. Thank you for being here. I really hope that the knowledge that I can share with you will empower you to feel confident and knowledgeable when you are buying and selling a home. Today's video is part of Understanding the Home Buying Process video series. I've created a whole bunch of other videos. If you haven't seen them yet, please check them out. They are super helpful if you are buying a house for the first time, or if you haven't bought a house in a while and you're considering buying now. So check them out. What is the home closing? The home closing is the final stage that you have to complete in order to get the keys. So it's the most exciting process and part of the whole 45-day period from when you initially put your offer in, but it's also kind of the scariest because there are so many papers that you need to fill out. So we're going to talk about some of the papers that you are going to be signing. We're going to talk about what the closing costs are, what the closing process is, things like that. By the time that you get to the closing table, you should have a very good idea of what your closing costs will be. You may not know down to the very penny, but you should have a general idea of what they're going to cost. And now I'm in Central Massachusetts. Generally, I think here and everywhere, they're approximately 2 to 5% of the cost of the home. I mean, it ranges greatly depending on the lender and the type of loan you have and, the cost of the house that you're buying. There are a lot of different factors that are going to change those numbers. But what the closing costs will cover, just to go over that, is it's kind of it's a general term for many individual prices that go from lender's fees, which are often termed origination fees. Origination fees is basically, that's telling you what the lender is charging you to do all the paperwork that they need to do. All lenders vary with that, but somewhere between 0.5 and 1% of the cost of the loan is what you're going to be paying for origination fees to the lender. Then there's all kinds of other fees that are involved in the closing, including you have to prepay insurance for the next year. You have to establish that escrow fund, which most people nowadays usually, when they pay their mortgage, they pay the mortgage, taxes, and insurance all in one lump sum payment. You don't have to. It's just more convenient. So a lot of people do that. So in order to do that, you have to set up the escrow and you have to prepay some of these things, the taxes and the insurance. You have to have that prepaid and set up and ready to go into an escrow account. So part of the closing fees will be that, the prepayments of taxes and insurance. Some of the other fees would be the lawyer fees. You have to pay the lawyer to protect your interest through this whole home buying process, the purchase and sale agreement, and then to review the title and to assist you in signing the closing papers. So these are all some of the fees involved in the closing process. As I said, these closing costs are going to be somewhere between 2 to 5% of the purchase price of the home. So you're talking, anywhere from $5,000 up to, I've seen them go up to over $8,000 or even more, depending on insurance costs. So this is something you really want to understand before you even put the offer price in. You want to know right from the get-go, what you're looking at, because when you put the offer in, if you don't have that lump sum money in your savings account or access to it, you want to make sure that maybe you consider writing that into the offer as a closing cost credit. How I do that with my clients is if they're going to put in an offer for, say, $250, we actually have that as the net to the seller. We add on whatever closing costs that they want, we add that on to whatever the price is that would be net to the seller. So if they want to give the seller $250 for the house, they would put in an offer for $256, and then at the end it would say contingent on seller crediting the buyer $6,000 towards closing cost credit. And that way you are financing the closing costs, and it's not money you have to come up with at the end. And you can use the cash reserves for other things and other expenses that might come up that are involved with moving or any unexpected expenses. It's just something that a lot of my buyers do, but you don't have to. I mean, if you have the cash and you want to use your cash, you can do that too. Just an option. At the closing, this is when it's super important to make sure that you have a quality referral for an attorney. A lot of mortgage companies have their own attorneys, and you may be forced to use those. But if you have a realtor who has relationships with different attorneys, it's really probably in your best interest to use them because, number one, they treat the clients of the realtor when they have a relationship a little bit better, and you get a little better service. And obviously, the realtor is going to know what attorneys perform things in a timely manner that are going to help their clients. I mean, I know for me, the lawyers that I use are in my client's best interest. I don't get paid anything for recommending, what lawyers or lenders to use. I choose people who I know will service my clients in the best way, quickest, fastest, and, most cost efficient. The documents that you need to sign at closing are extensive. I mean, it feels like you're signing your life away, not gonna lie. It's just unbelievable how many documents there are. But in today's world, there's so much liability that everybody wants to make sure that they're signing, you're having you sign these liability clauses. But in addition to that, there's a lot of other paperwork you need to sign. You need to sign a whole bunch of paperwork for the lender. They're going to go over all kinds of things. They're gonna have you sign the terms of the loan, the original paperwork that you agreed to. Then many disclosures, many liability type paperwork you're gonna need to fill out. The paperwork you sign is going to depend on the loan. Different loans are going to have different paperwork. The VA and the FHA and conventional loans, they all are going to have different paperwork, and different banks are going to have different paperwork. So it varies greatly, but generally they're all touching base on the same similar terms, and that is the terms of the loan, and understanding that yes, you could be putting your house is going to be the collateral for the loan. So if you for any reason don't pay the loan, they do have the right to take your home. That is generally one of the papers that you need to sign. Also, title paperwork is going to need to be signed. They're going to have a whole bunch of papers that you're going to need to sign for them. One of the most important is about title insurance, making sure that you understand that you have a clear title, and all that has been done by the attorney, making sure that as you move forward, there are no outstanding liens on your home, and no one in the future has any right to go after that home or the proceeds to that home. That's really important. It doesn't happen often, but it could, and you want to make sure you're protected, and that is one of the benefits of having a lawyer protecting you. They prevent all of that. There are some documents you want to absolutely make sure that you have with you when you attend the closing. Most important, you want to have a valid ID. Generally a driver's license is good. If you don't have a driver's license, passport, something legal and binding with a photo ID. They're going to need that to make sure that you are who you say you are when you sign all your paperwork. They're going to need a certified check from the bank for any balance that's going to be due. residual closing costs or any other fees involved with this loan. That's going to have to be a bank check. So you need to get that exact amount, and sometimes, I hate to say it, it can be a very last minute ordeal getting that number. I can say that from going through so many closings. It is a frustration for many of my buyers. They want to know what that number is. They want to be prepared and go to the bank and get everything. And a lot of times it is unfortunately left to the last minute because there are so many uncertainties, and the numbers will change based on what day you close on because the taxes will change. I mean, there are so many numbers that can change in a closing. It's very technical. At the closing will be your attorney. Some lenders do attend closings. They don't where I am in Massachusetts. I don't ever see a lender at a closing in Massachusetts. Doesn't mean in your state they won't, because they could. Generally in Massachusetts, it's the lawyers and the buyers and the seller attorney. The seller attorney shows up to represent the seller. Sometimes the sellers attend the closing, but it's very infrequent. I think I've had one in maybe 20, or 25 closings. I had one seller show up or two. Some of them like to be there, but it doesn't usually happen. The buyer usually never meets the seller the entire process. I would say 5% of buyers actually meet the sellers, and that is actually a good thing because there tends to be a little animosity sometimes between what the seller wants and what the buyer wants. It's at opposite sides. So it actually is a good thing that it works out that way. So who will be at the closing? Sometimes your real estate agents will be there. Different realtors will attend, others won't. It depends on their schedule. They may have other appointments that day and not be able to make it. Basically, all you're doing is signing paperwork, so it's not critical for your realtor to be there. It's really just a personal choice. I remember when I bought my house, I could not wait. The second I signed those closing papers, I couldn't wait. Just give me the keys. I want to get in my house. And it was so disappointing to find out that, oh, sorry, you don't get to go in your house the second you sign the papers. Oh no, it still has to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And until it is technically recorded on the public records, you are not allowed to enter that house. Let me tell you, that was the longest, 2 to 3 hours or whatever it was a while ago, that I had to endure because I just couldn't wait. And it's so exciting. I mean, you just can't wait to get into that house. And not being able to immediately can be tough to handle. So I try my best to inform people, my clients, of this long in advance so that they are not in the same boat with the disappointment as I was. But a lot of realtors can forget this. We're so used to it. We know the drill that it's just something we tend to forget to mention. So if your realtor forgot to mention it, just take note. One important thing that I'd like to mention is to make sure you find out what the date your first payment is due after your closing. Usually you have a little bit longer than a month because it depends on what day of the month that you sign the papers on. But if you sign in the middle of the month, say your closing's in the 15th, you would not necessarily have a payment due in 2 weeks. It would probably be, because at the closing you're going to pay for whatever's due those next 2 weeks. It's probably going to be 2 weeks plus the next month. So you have a little bit of time, but know that date and know the address of where you're going to be sending the payment, because when you're moving, you're going to lose all of this information and you don't want to be late on your very first mortgage payment, So make sure you take note of that, take a photo of it on your phone so you have it handy when the time comes and you have the info in case you don't receive anything by mail. So that's it. You go through, you sign all those papers, you basically sign your life away, but the reward is just so awesome. You get to walk away with your new home and start your new adventure. So congratulations, and I hope you have enjoyed my whole home buying process series, my next video, I'm just gonna do a little bit of a recap in which I'm gonna go through the timeline so that you understand just the time it takes for each particular step. I know I've gone through and I've explained the process and I've talked about how much time each one takes, but I just want to make a short, quick video to kind of recap it all, just to make it simpler, just so you can have this simple reference if you need it, you know, if you're going to be buying in the near future. So I hope it helps. I hope you subscribe, please, if you want more info and if you would like to be empowered when you're buying and selling a home. I really hope this information is helpful. Okay, have a great day. Until next time, bye.